ready? The time has come. Let the show begin.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
We're there. Doc, how are you?
Good morning. Happy holidays to you and your listeners.
Same. I appreciate it. I'll just give everybody the heads up. I see you're under, or can hear you're under the weather. So I appreciate you. The show must go on, right? Standard over feelings, Doc. I mean, just dive right in.
Mm-hmm. I'm ready. I'm good.
We're not going to waste any time because the last 2 times you've done this with us, I've had more people reach out and ask about what we discussed. So I don't want to waste any time, and I want to get right in it. Obviously, in the show notes is a little bit about your background, and it's going to be way longer than this one kind of sentence that I'm going to say. And I've known you for almost 30 years, technically.
He was 4, at the time.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But primarily your career in the past 20, 25 has been working as a sports psychologist with pro athletes.
Olympic, pro, nationally ranked junior athletes. Absolutely correct.
So, and mainly obviously on mental conditioning. My first question, I'm just going to get right into it, is why is it so important when it comes to high performance, mental conditioning?
Whether it's in sports or in corporate world. By the way, hopefully I don't sound too...
Oh my gosh, you sound great.
The reality is that in my line of work, we always talk about how is everyone doing everything they could or should? So did you do your homework on the product? Did you have a proper preparation in terms of this client? Do you understand what their needs are in sports? Did I put the time in? Have I done the proper nutrition? Did I get the rest? Have I developed the skill set? Once you get through those things, and that is what I would say, everyone should have that same level at the most elite. The question that comes up is who can be mentally tougher? Who can stay in the moment? Who doesn't let their own biases interfere with understanding? If I'm a higher ranked team, how do I not look past this next opponent, which is how upsets take place? With customers, how do I not judge them and presume they're negative, they're not going to purchase, they don't have the money, when in all reality, I could be 100% wrong. Can I follow through in the moment and learn from it? One of the best things that any of the listeners that you have, that whole idea that show me someone who thinks they know everything, and I'll show you someone who has not reached their potential. The idea that true learning begins after you think you know everything. So getting feedback is wise. And in my working with sports, we need to go through the technical, the tactical, nutritional, exercise, physiology, but the mental focus, not to dwell on the past, not to worry about the future. So it fits not only for the most elite athletes, it fits for the business person. And it's a delight to be able to work in both worlds.
What do you think? You mentioned talent at that level is kind of within a decimal point, let's just say. So what is the mental conditioning side, do you believe? And I know we're going to be a little biased, I guess, probably, but is that the difference that you see between pros and amateurs?
Oh, lovely. Well stated. Let's just kind of use this as range of ability. So let's just go with the range of amateurs is from extremely low to extremely high. And I would actually say when you look at the pros, you would see an extreme range too, from the very best in the sport to the lowest performer in the sport. And as you can see, there is overlap. What we oftentimes notice is these individuals who are exceptionally gifted in the sport make too many unforced errors. Their negative self-talk interferes. They become too emotionally reactive. So they become much more inconsistent, where the pros have fewer, in essence, unforced errors. They perform more consistently, more predictably, which adds to their confidence. So helping the amateur be able to realize, and in sales too, we all react. Something good happens. Yeah. Something not so good. I stink. Well, odds are you probably don't stink. That's an emotional reaction. And the goal is not to not react. You will. You are human. So the goal is, once I react, how quickly can I respond? Go from emotions to cognitions, from feelings to thoughts. How do I give myself a private lesson from me to me? And we do that in sports, and we do that in business. And so for the most elite athlete versus the amateur, it's those things that we were just talking about: emotion management, decision making, physiologically teaching themselves how to calm and quiet themselves. Once you react, some people think they just have to put up with it and endure. And who knows how long that's going to take. But we can actually teach people, once you react, how to more properly respond with a healthy physiologically response. So we can prevent it from becoming overwhelming as we improve someone's performance. But if they overreact, we can help them bring it back and quiet the system. And so that's what I would really hope anyone who's listening right now is, you will react. Good things? Yeah. Bad things? We just don't learn from those. That's in the amygdala, the limbic region of the brain. What we want to do is change which neurons are firing in the brain. And we go through a number of protocols to help people do like the autopsy after a sale or a non-close. Same with sports. We have a post-shot routine for every single play. And the goal, in essence, is to learn from the past, because it's all about learning, growing, and progressing.
What's the post-shot routine?
There are, pardon me, there are two types of post-shot routines that we'd love to be able to get everyone to practice. And again, this could be in sport, this could be in the business world. So after whatever happens, you will react. And you really want to think about it as, it's a shame, maybe I'll bring up a couple of slides where it actually shows brain scans where your emotions light up. And it's way down here in the brain. Two little almond-shaped area called the amygdala. So if you're happy about something, that's where it lights up. But what we want to do is light up what's higher cortical functioning, thinking, logic, learning. And so we have people practice these two post-shot routines. And so after something happens and you react, you ask yourself, the first one, we call it's your PAL, and it's an acronym, PAL. What was the plan? It's not a feeling. That's a historical fact. This area of the brain lights up. What actually happened? So what was the plan? P. What actually happened? A. Historical fact. It's not an emotion. And then what do I learn? That's higher cortical functioning and executive functioning. Literally, you're changing which neurons in the brain are firing. Which is the difference between emotionally reacting and being able to learn from the past. By the way, for all the listeners, the only way you can let go of the past is by learning from the past. Otherwise, your brain just keeps dwelling on it and ruminating on it. Why did I do that? Well, you want to know? We can help you. I'm so pathetic. Okay, now you're beating yourself up. I should just quit. Well, I don't know if you have to quit. Why don't we walk you through these three? So what was the plan? What actually happened? What do I learn? The second approach for a post-shot routine, and some people find it better for them than the first one. That's okay. Some use both. And it's a little esoteric when you hear me say it. So after something happens, you will react. Are you ready for this one?
Yeah.
Someone's taking notes. They're going to go, what? All right. This is called third person first, first person second. Everyone says to me I should add the word dude at the end of that sentence.
Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah. Let's use baseball as an example. So someone throws a pitch. Now, the catcher gave him the sign, what the pitch was, gave him the location, let's say low and outside. And the pitcher releases the ball, and it's straight down the middle of the plate. It's a fat pitch, and the batter just hits with a tremendous exit velocity. It goes deep into the gap, and they get a double.
Sounds like a real life example from somebody I know.
Hey, it happens to all. So in that situation, I would ask you, first off, you will react. Something happened that you didn't want. It could also be that the batter was expecting a curveball low and outside, and they were like way under it when it went straight down the middle of the plate. You will react. So I asked third person first, first person second. Third person first. I'm not asking about you. I'm asking you to tell me about you. What would your favorite coach tell you? Your favorite coach is not you. It's a third person. So in this sequence, I'm asking about a third person in the first place. So it's third person sequentially first. So what would your favorite coach say? So in that case, your favorite coach may say something that's technical. Well, you released it too early. You need to make sure you're following through fully, and then you'll get or more spin on the ball. Technical. It could be tactical. So not just the how to do it, but where to do it and when to do it. Your coach so may say something technical, may say something tactical. They may say something like, hey, don't worry about it. You got this. I've seen you do this 1,000 times. You've always done well. Let's just put it behind us. We want to be able to kind of move on. I know you've got it. Encouragement. Okay. It could be, just the simplicity of, all right, next. Can't change it. The reality of we cannot change the past. And so some are kind of straightforward with that. So it can be technical, tactical, emotional, supportive, whatever it might be. Could be that they're a role model and they keep themselves calm, which is beneficial for you. So it's third person first. All those things your favorite coach just said to you. I now ask you in this sequence to convert into first person statements. So sequentially, it goes from third person first, comma, to first person second in the sequence.
Got it.
So I'm asking about someone, and if it's your favorite coach, the odds are they're not going to tell you you suck. They're probably going to come out there and try to get your head back in the game. They're probably going to be reassuring. They're probably going to be offering up something technical. All of those things your favorite coach will probably say to you. And over time, you probably integrate that. So I ask you in that moment, you can do post-shot routine PAL. What was the plan? What actually happened? What do I learn? Or you can ask yourself, third person first, first person second. What would my mentors say to me in a situation like this? And they would probably offer up some great advice, insight, wisdom, years of experience, how they know you, strategies, techniques. They may offer all those things. Third person first. Now we ask you to convert all of those wonderful kernels of wisdom into first person statements. So both of these are giving a private lesson from you to you. You're going from reacting emotionally to responding. And only through learning can we let something go. Otherwise, we just revert back to beating ourselves up emotionally, not learning and just dwelling on the past.
Those statements then become what? Your self-talk for
Yes.
The next appointment, the next play, the next whatever?
Every single pitch, swing, shot, every single one of them. Now, there are some sports, that are staccato. Baseball, tennis, a point starts and a point ends. Football, play starts, theoretically 7 to 8 seconds later, it ends. And so you actually have just a few moments that you can actually do this, which is great. Going back to the huddle, stepping out of the box, straightening out my strings, whatever it might have been. And in that time, you actually start practicing this. And you get to the point where it becomes automatic and quick. And to speak to a question you asked earlier, what's the difference between amateurs and pros? We know that from research that was done, actually interesting enough, in tennis, the difference between the top 5 tennis players and not you and me, there's a tremendous difference between the top 5 and us, but the top 5 and the rest of the players, they were actually comparing it to the top 25. And they wanted to know what was the difference. And so the hypothesis was skills. No, they all had similar skills. Years playing. I mean, there was an average and a range, but no, that wasn't the difference. Nutrition, sleep, I don't know. They were coming up with all these things. It turns out that after something occurs, good or bad, they go from reacting to responding in less than 10 seconds. 10 seconds is the criteria that they use to be able to say, if you're going beyond that, you're just letting your emotions rule you. You're still muttering. And as we've talked about in the past, and I always like using this as the example, everyone who's watching can see it. Everyone who's listening, I'm holding up a pen in front of my face, and now I just drop it. My comment is there anything that I can do to change that I've already done this? Intellectually, we all know the answer is no. Yeah. So the more time I sit muttering to myself about the past that I cannot change, not only am I wasting energy wishing the past was different, but I'm not in the moment. And so a lot of people end up in slumps. They call it slumps. We sports psychologists don't believe in slumps. It just means you're dwelling on the past. We need you to learn from the past so you can let go of the past to bring you back to the now.
Does that carry over to sales slumps?
Yes.
Same concept would be?
Yeah, you start developing a mindset of what to anticipate. You start stereotyping. I believe it was Nietzsche who once said, to stereotype me is to negate me. So if you're going in on a call and you're thinking, oh, that zip code again, I know what's in that area. You know, if you walk in on someone who reminds you of an individual, and so you start projecting your own transference, it's referred to, onto that person, you can start already spinning the thing. In the Oz Principle, one of the great books that I love in the business world, they talk about above the line and below the line. And everything about below the line is externalizing why the sale didn't work. So it could be, blame it on the product isn't good. My training wasn't good. The support from inside the corporation was not good. The customer wasn't, and everything is external. Nothing that they can be empowered to do anything about. That's actually the law of attribution. What am I attributing the outcome to? And clinically, we used to do that with our medical residents at Johns Hopkins. We would videotape all the encounters, and we would ask satisfaction after an encounter. And when a session went well with a mother and a couple of kids, I was in pediatrics, a couple of kids in the session, and if it went well, we'd ask the provider, what'd you think? Oh, it was productive, and patient knows to do this and follow up on this. Oh, cool. What made it successful? Oh, well, it's my skills and my listening skills, and I was understanding what her struggle was, and I empathized, and we cooperated and came to a conclusion, and it was verbally agreed upon. Well, how'd the session go? Not so good. Well, how come? Those kids were so annoying. The mom didn't. It was everything external. It was stunning to watch this take place. So we're always encouraging people to really look at yourself, to really kind of bring it back to what can I do different? And so whether it's in clinical or whether it's in sports or whether it's in business, there are a lot of factors that I bring, how I carry myself. Do I speak the language of the person I'm communicating with? I use very different interpersonal skills depending on who I'm interacting with. And I try my best to kind of match it to the best of ability. My job is still to bring evidence-based information. But if all I do is pontificate using quarter-size words and proving I have an advanced degree, I'm not going to communicate. Good communication isn't just words coming out of my mouth, but that the recipient, the receiver, understands what I'm saying. And that's my responsibility to help the receiver to better understand it. So yes, it works in all those different situations: clinical, sports, business.
The part about taking it back or looking in the mirror, basically, is that mainly driven because of that's really all you can control?
Yeah, well, yeah.
I mean, I know that sounds obvious, but like, right? I mean,
we talk about there are things within your control and things outside of your control. And the more energy you spend on trying to control, changing the past, the future, things outside, it's really curious about that. In sports, we refer to it, I refer to it as external constants. So in sports, if playing baseball and there's a rain delay. And before the rain delay, I had been doing just great. The rain delay happens. I go in the locker, I sit down in the dugout and I'm just waiting. And I start saying to myself, like, this is going to make me cold. But the other guys, they're going to be able to come back swinging. What an interesting self-talk. Whenever there's an external constant, something outside of me that affects everybody, I either unconsciously take that external constant. It's too cold outside. It's too windy on the golf course today. It's too hot. And I take that excuse and I stick it in my back pocket. And the entire time I'm in the sale, the entire time I'm in my sport, if I'm playing in Green Bay, I'm like, it's cold. It's cold.
Yeah.
I am constantly reminding myself of the excuse that I have in my back pocket. And I'm not in the moment. I'm focusing externally. And when the game ends, someone asked me, a reporter, like, so I noticed you had a rough day today. Well, it's freezing. And as you say those words, you realize someone won. So I always point out, when it's an external constant, you either unconsciously plan on losing, and that's what we're ended up talking about right now. Yeah. It's because of the way I look at it, my perception of it, my self-talk, the 3 keys to life, 2 of those 3. And I put it in my back pocket. And when I'm asked why my performance was poor, there it is. So it's either I unconsciously plan on losing and I take myself down that path, or I adapt. And adaptation is vital for success. How do I speak to this person? How do I find out what the needs are? How do I come up with a list of products that we have? How do I make sure that my products meld and mesh with their needs? If they don't, and I love to tell this to everyone in business, don't lie and don't try to shove a square peg into a round hole. Negative publicity is horrible for the business.
Yeah.
And it'll actually cost you more to try to fix a problem that you created rather than, Steve in Corporation B. I think based on what you've told me, you might find that it actually is more prudent to go with Steve. Well, this guy now knows you've got his back. If some corporate executive says to you, this is what we're looking for, and she says, I've been in this position, this is what we need, and you're trying to convince her otherwise, you create an antagonistic relationship already. What you want to do is create this cooperation, this collegial, that we're working together. We're going to compromise in some ways, but if needed, I can refer you to somebody else. You are winning that person over. Remember, it's a marathon. And a lot of people are like, no, I'm a sprinter. I have to close today. Well, you're willfully choosing intellectual relationship with this person, and you're going to try to manipulate and convince them to do something they otherwise wouldn't have done. Now you're starting to take the whole sales relationship down what I would consider overall an unproductive direction. I think it requires an entire different paradigm where you're actually working with someone, not doing something to someone. You actually create a partnership with them. And so it starts from the way someone looks at the situation and realizing, what can I control? There are things outside my control. All right. I need to know what those are. See if I can mitigate any of those. But I also have to understand what is within my control. Sometimes I can solve it. Sometimes I can't. And I'm going to refer.
You brought up my favorite thing, and I want to spend the time on it if you don't mind, because there's a lot of things you've taught me over the years, but the 3 keys to life. You talked about one, self-talk. Do you want to? I'll just turn it over to you. It's better.
All right. So for your listeners, make sure you're either recording or writing the stuff down. This is a master's class we're going to go through right now.
100%, by the way. I can vouch for it.
So over doing this clinically over 35 years, I've kind of gotten to the ability, it's been fun, to take advanced psychological concepts and break them down into bite-sized morsels. And it's been a real delight. And so this concept that you just brought up, the 3 keys to life. The 3 keys to life are perception, self-talk, and behavior. Everything starts with your perception. Your perception is either positive or negative to every situation you come across. Even if you tell me, Doc, oh, that thing that you just mentioned, I'm neutral. If I talk with you a little bit longer, I'll find out if you're neutral positive or neutral negative. And I always bring up stuff like, what's your initial point of view, your initial perspective to sushi?
Yeah.
And people will either say, let's do it. And other people are like, ew.
Yeah.
And then you ask them, have you ever tried it? They're like, no. Like, wait a second. That's an interesting perception.
This was me when we talked about it originally. Yeah, it's nasty.
So
have you had it? No.
So selling to a certain person based on what information you have a perception. It's either positive or negative. Your product, is it something that you actually value, or are you just trying to snake oil somebody? To every situation in your life, it's either positive or negative. The second part of perception is it always makes sense to you. So it's 100% you. Everything you think, feel, say, and do makes sense to you. So if you tell me why you don't like sushi, you'll tell me why.
Doc, say that one more time.
Oh, gosh. Hi, my name's Dr. Shinitzky.
Feel.
Everything you think, feel, say, and do makes sense to you. Which is why I say the second part of perception is it's 100% you. So it's either positive or negative. It's always 100% you. If you're a night owl, you'll tell me why. If you're an early riser, you'll tell me why. If you're faith-based, you'll tell me why. If you're an atheist, you'll tell me why. It makes sense to you. So your perception always makes sense to you. The third part of perception. So the first one is positive or negative. Second one is it always makes sense to you. And the third one is, this is a head cold coming in right now. Wow. All right. For the listening audience, this is one of those, I'm going to take a drink of my cranberry juice here. Pretend like I'm just taking a long drink. Think about it. Wow. It'll hit me. Wow. I am looking forward to seeing the doctor later on. So as it works out, the first part again, when you look at one's perception, positive or negative, the second part of that is your self-talk, how you actually kind of move into the entire behavior. But the second part of, my gosh, I apologize for this. Head cold is really unpleasant. I will look while I'm doing this. This is wild. It's such a natural experience for me to go through this. Let me see if I can pull it up here. I apologize. La la la. I will act goofy in a second.
This was you're talking about the third part of perception, right?
Yes. I can't believe that I was actually putting this in the other area. It's the great thing about doing something live and then having it aired. So the curious thing. Perception, because it's your point of view, and it always makes sense to you. The third part of that is it could be, and so I'll just say it this way, it could be based on reality, which would be great. Look both ways before I cross the street. Cool. That's a smart idea. Invest a portion of my salary in my retirement account. Smart idea. Always be kind, thoughtful, and loving to my loved one. Well, great. Fantastic. It could be based on reality, but it also could be some fictitious story you create in your head. I mean, literally, like sushi actually might be something you like. If you didn't know that they have steak where they slice it carpaccio thin and put it with vegetables and rice and roll it up, and they serve that as a sushi roll. And a lot of people are like, what? Steak? Yeah. Yeah, you can go to a fine sushi spot and get steak sushi. You can tempura something. All of a sudden it's crunchy and a little sweet flavor to it. And it's like, wow, I've never thought about that. So your perception is either positive or negative. It always makes sense to you. And it could be based on reality, or it could be a monster you create in your own head. And that's the drawback of this. It may become a negative perception that is counterproductive. So if I said, I'm a high schooler, math is stupid. Well, what we want to be able to do is figure out that's just a perception. It's like an opinion. So we need to either learn how to confirm or challenge. So we're going to go from perception to self-talk. Perception is positive or negative, 100% you, and it's either based on reality or it could be just some monster you create. Then we move to self-talk. Perception influences self-talk. It does not control it. So when we look at self-talk, your self-talk either confirms your initial point of view or challenges your initial point of view. And so your self-talk, if I said math is stupid, the odds are my self-talk would be a whole lot of things like, I'll never need to use it. It's dumb. Everything will be electronic. I'm confirming a negative perception, and my negative self-talk turns into a peanut gallery that I carry with me. I come up with every negative reason, justification that I can to support my negative perception. Sports psych or consultation with individuals, if someone has a negative perception that is counterproductive, what we want to be able to do, this is the second part of self-talk, we want to be able to challenge a negative counterproductive perception into a positive and now identify all the benefits. Well, I do want to go to college, so I'm going to have to get good grades. All right, so math, I'm going to have to put in some time. I'm going to do my math first instead of procrastinating until I don't have any energy and time. If I don't understand something, I'll get a tutor. When I apply myself, my performance actually starts to improve, which is kind of curious about this. But since I challenge a negative perception of the positive, and now I identify all the benefits, would I like to own a home? Yeah, math is important. I need to understand amortization over a 30-year period. I need to understand about retirement accounts and how when I put money in and it's compounded and what that means. So there are actually incredible benefits. I used to use traveling as a math thing, but now we have GPS, so it tells me where to go and how long it's going to take me to get there. But math actually has tremendous benefits. I had a young lady who told me she hated playing her perception. I hated playing against girls whose last name end in OVA, O-V-A. Because to her, they were Russian, and you know those Russians, they have specialty training. That was a perception. And she just kept negative self-talk because she confirmed it. And we chatted, and I said, at the next tournament coming up, you may want to see about getting together with someone whose last name ends in OVA. I know a bunch of people in the tournament, they could probably share with you what's going on in Russia. So sure enough, she met one of the young ladies, asked her if she can get together, and told her what she wanted to talk about. So that young lady brought two of her friends whose last name also ended in OVA. So she and three ladies from Russia, OVAs, told her, no specialty training in Russia. That's why we come here to the States. So she now challenged a negative perception, turned it into a positive, and identified all the benefits. I've been practicing here in the States. I actually have the same UTR rating as them. I've been able to perform well against them. Being able to not judge people based on the last name helps me in my future.
Yeah.
So whenever there's a negative perception that is not productive, what we want to be able to do is learn how to just challenge it, identify the positives, and now go through all of the benefits. So there's confirm your perception or challenge your perception. You want to challenge your perception into a positive and identify all the benefits. And the reason why we go through this is the third part of self-talk, which is your self-talk talks you into or out of everything in your life. The peanut gallery literally says, I'm not eating sushi, or I hate playing against OVAs, or whatever your negative perception is. But if you can convert it to a positive, identify all the benefits, you now talk yourself into the behavior, into addressing it, a whole new way of managing your life. So your perception influences your self-talk, which then affects your behavior. So if we now go from perception to self-talk and move on to behavior, I always want to point out to individuals this, and I ask them to write it down. It's the word thoughts / feelings does not equal behavior. You can have any thought or feeling you want. Behavior is always a choice. Always a choice. If someone holds you up with a gun and says, give me all your money, you could pretend to be a ninja warrior, do something stupid if you're not, highly trained. Or you can say, oh, no, these are just former presidents. Here you go. I'm not even going to look at you. I can't even identify you. There are days where you probably didn't want to come to work.
Yeah.
But yet still did. We have thoughts and feelings constantly. Some of them are productive. Some of them are counterproductive. You can have a negative perception. Here's a good one. Dr. Shinitzky, take your cell phone, whip it through the plate glass window in front of you, shattering both the glass window and my phone. I had the thought, I visualized, I could see it, I have the coordination to do it. Behavior is always a choice. It's always a choice. You can be nervous about public speaking and still go up and speak in public. You can be terrified of jumping out of a perfectly good airplane. Strap yourself to some master's level diver or skydiver and lock on, and out you go. The ability to realize you are not your thoughts or feelings. Those are experiences. And the curious thing, your behavior, we always want to emphasize, whatever you practice, you get better at. So the first part of the behavioral parts of the perception is positive or negative. It always makes sense to you. It could be based on reality, or it could be some fictitious self-talk, monster you have. Your self-talk either confirms or challenges. With consultation, you want to teach yourself how to catch that negative perception, turn it into a positive, identify all the benefits, and you realize that your self-talk talks you into or talks you out of. Behavior, the first part of that is thoughts, feelings do not equal behaviors. It's a choice. By the way, we're the only species on the planet that can do this. So if I said to your listeners, has anyone ever pissed you off? And the odds are people are going, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, every time that happened, did you immediately go up to the person and slug them in the face? And a lot of the people will say, no, but I thought it. Right. You literally just proved you're the highest order of species on the planet. Every other animal out there does exactly what it does and doesn't change. Predator is the predator, prey is prey. They just have their hierarchy. They do what they do. They don't change it. We're the only creature in the world that can have a thought or a feeling and choose either to do the behavior or to do a different behavior. So in that moment, someone was filled with anger, rage. Look at me. Vengeance. I might have even visualized what I could do to this person. And yet I controlled my behavior. You need to celebrate that you are the only species on the planet that can alter your life trajectory. Just because you came from some situation in your past doesn't damn your future to that. You can alter that trajectory by virtue of your behavior. Well, I'm just a shy person. It's hard for me. Well, I don't want to damn your future because of your past. You were a shy person. Maybe now you're addressing it. And in the future, you can master it. That's what people do with Toastmasters. I'm terrified of public speaking. But now I go and practice and I get better at it. And I develop some skills and I get a lot of reassurance. And now I feel a little bit more comfortable and I get positive feedback. And this is enjoyable. I hated public speaking all the way through high school. Hated it. I'd rather have my non-dominant arm torn off than speak in front of the class. And then I had a public speaking class between high school and college. And the teacher just said, if you can remember 10% of what we talk about, it'll change your life as a presenter. I love presenting. Even a moment ago, I just went blank. I couldn't remember that third part of perception. It happens. Okay. I have the resources. I'm adaptive. I did a quick look. Oh, there it was. Made the third point into self-talk. Silly of me. Okay. Happens. I reacted, but then I moved to responding. The curious aspect, we're the only creature that can choose the behavior we want. So if you want to learn how to be a better salesman, probably would be wise to get a mentor. A lot of people just get into sales and they really don't have an understanding of what elite salespeople have been able to accomplish over the decades of their career. Get a mentor. Meet with this person, pay them whatever it is to, work with them. Read books on it. It's not being more manipulative. I really truly believe that in sales, it's really about that partnership. So you want to go, it's behaviors, thoughts, feelings do not equal behaviors. And whatever you practice, you get better at. Is the second part of the behavior. And so if you practice being judgmental, if you practice being cruel and harsh to yourself when you don't make a sale, you actually start creating a neural pathway. This becomes your existence. Your perception is your reality. That's why I tell people in consultations, your emotions are not based on reality. I'm like, what? Your emotions are based on your perception of reality. Right now, I see there's a wall behind you. And if any of the listeners, if right now you heard a loud growling, very deep, just outside your door, and you think, bear. Oh, there's a bear in the building. I'm going out the window. Because of my perception, I physiologically react. It might have just been the guy in the office next to me or the gal in the office next to me pushing a desk that's grinding on the tile floor. It doesn't matter that it never was a bear. If my perception is it's a bear, I now react. And if I hear and I think, why is she pushing a table out in the hallway? And it's a bear, you're fine because your perception was, oh, it's a table. You're fine. You'll be mauled, but you're fine. And so I always want to point out to people, it's your perception leads to your self-talk, which either confirms or challenges it, which affects your behavior. The cool thing is, if you start practicing proper behavior, it changes your self-talk, which influences your perception. So it's not just one direction, it's bi-directional. And we can actually change the way we experience our lives by virtue of how we address it. So that, my friend, the 3 keys to life.
It can apply to what we do. I have one question for more of the sales leaders that are on, that will watch this. They're working, say, with with one of their salespeople, and the perception, let's just say, tends to be negative. Then the self-talk, like you said, usually when working with somebody clinically or an athlete, you'll challenge that. What do you find the best way to challenge that? Obviously, to make sure it's receptive, right? To not get a rep, or in your case, an athlete to shut down.
Really good point. Without insight, there is no behavioral change. So someone has to realize that in the first place, that we all have room for improvement. I have room. I mean, literally, you, me, your sales force out there, everyone has room for improvement. So I want to be open to understanding that I fail. Failure is not a loss if I learn from it. I mean, it's vitally important. We use the wrong expectations. We have unrealistic expectations that we're not supposed to fail. No. Fail or fall forward. Learn from it. It's okay. In some places, they're just grind it out. Just the numbers. We need the metrics. Just kind of get it. Make 100 calls. No relationships. Just hope you get someone who's receptive. Again, I think it's a paradigm shift that we have to be able to establish relationship, get fewer calls, more relationship, have a higher percentage of closing. I think that's just smart business. As we talk about, you want your sales forces then to be working on being more effective, not efficient. So you make 100 calls and you have a 2% close rate. What happens if you made 50 calls and closed 3%, 4%, 5%? All of a sudden now we start incrementally realizing it's effective. How can it be optimal? So I think being open to realizing that no one is 100%. We all have room for improvement. We want to be able to be open to feedback. Huge. If you're not open to feedback, you're trying to cover up something. And your weakness, your vulnerability, your limitation will be a shackle around your ankle and prevent you from ever moving to the big leagues. So you have to be open to understanding that maybe the way I'm swinging the bat, here's one for you. I slice a golf ball. Who doesn't? But if I slice a golf ball, law of attrition. Oh, okay, it was me. Yeah, of course it was you. I just saw you do it. I mean, big whoops. Okay. But if you go through the push-out routines, and this is what I would hope that your sales force can do. What was the plan? What actually happened? What do I learn from this? That's far more important. If you have a mentor, they'll start telling you some helpful suggestions that will become internalized by you. So you can use third person first, first person second. We have to be open to growing and changing. I don't know why in the business world, someone enters the business world and then doesn't get a mentor. I mean, think about this in sports. They are being coached from the moment they get into Little League, college, and then the pros. They're always working with coaches because there's always room for improvement. But in the business world, no. I don't want people to know my limitations, my vulnerabilities. I can't even admit them. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Bring something up like that? I'll be laughed at. I'll be laughed out of the field. My boss will not promote. It's just the opposite. How do I show my boss I have insight and awareness? And, I realize that I need to kind of work on how I connect with someone. How do I make sure that my language is not one where I'm talking at someone, but where I'm talking with? How do we partner? How do I understand stages of change model, the trans-theoretical model? I need to know, where is this customer of mine? Are they in the pre-contemplative, the contemplative, preparation, action, and maintenance? There are people who are listening right now. This is the first time they've ever heard this. I'm going to really lean in hard to this. Anyone who's listening right now and looking at my ugly mug, if you can get to know the stages of change model, the trans-theoretical model, pre-contemplative, contemplative, preparation, action, and maintenance, it will make your life sane. You need to understand this customer, where they're at in their readiness to change. Not everyone is coming in an ideal place where you're going to just walk in and, despite what you do, they're still going to be able to make the sale. But understanding where they're at when it comes to their readiness to change, people only move one stage at a time. And there are things that you can do to help someone move from one stage to the next. Action is the close of the deal, but there's all of this. And we know from the research, when something doesn't work out, when you're trying to shove everybody into the gold standard, if you would have assessed them before they quit, they rejected the call, 40% of the people you meet with are in the pre-contemplative, 40% are in the contemplative, and 20% are in the preparation phase. You, unfortunately, didn't assess them properly to figure out how to help them move to the stage of action. Now, this may be the first time you're ever hearing this, and I think that's great. And if you've heard it before but don't practice it, it's important that you become familiar with it. And there's an entire field called motivational interviewing, which helps move people from point A to point B. And again, I don't know if you have a mentor or someone that you're working with, but I highly recommend. There are people in the business world who have been unbelievably, wonderfully successful and desperately want to share what they do. And you want to reach out and connect with them. So to answer your question, I would probably say insight is the only way that you can lead to behavioral change. Everyone has room for improvement. Being open to seeking feedback, understanding that there are parts of my performance that I can control, things that are outside of my control. Can I study on this area? Can I become more knowledgeable about my products? Can I work on my techniques? Can I alter my perception of the situation? Can I improve my self-talk, which affects my behavior? Can I find a mentor? So, how's that?
Spot on. This is why you and I are working outside of this call, obviously, a lot around motivational interviewing, and because I just believe sales and leadership is just influencing change. You have a customer that currently owns this product. They want this product. That's change. You have a salesperson or an employee or a team member that's doing things this way. They really want to and need to be doing things this way. That's change. You're influencing change. And if you can understand where they're at in that 5 stages, is tremendously helpful. And it's a deep, and you've done a lot of research, and you wrote a whole, I don't know, it's called that's one of my favorites about it. It's definitely worth everybody Googling and understanding more about that. And you can do it in a first sit close, which is obviously our industry. You can facilitate those and guide somebody through those stages of change in a matter of 90 minutes. It's not that it's just understanding it.
By the way, there's also a tremendous amount of research on what's referred to as brief motivational interviewing. So someone comes into the emergency room.
When were you going to tell me this shit? Hold on. This is brief. Brief. All right.
Yeah. So
go ahead. Sorry.
When you have one opportunity to work with someone, that whole ability to truly assess where they're at. I mean, if someone's in the pre-contemplative and they're resistant, okay, so plant the seed. That's pretty much it. Everything else, you're spinning wheels. If they're in the contemplative, well, they're weighing out action and inaction, the pros and the cons. And literally, if you were to see me with one of my patients, you'd see me doing the scales of change. I go, so you're doing it for this reason, but there's also this occurring. If you don't understand why someone does a negative behavior, you're missing the boat. You have to understand they do it for a reason. No matter how crazy it might seem, it's been reinforcing for them. And so being able to speak to that and helping someone move by planting the seed, by expanding the contradiction between action and inaction, to talk about what their eventual goal would be and how their current behavior is incongruent with that long-term goal. And to be able to talk about emotionally, what would the benefit be for this person if they were to get here? That's their why. To be able to help someone then move in that direction. To talk about there are opportunities and options. People talk about sales. And I had a salesman come in and said, you know what you sell? I was like, no. He said, you sell hope. Wow. How fantastic is that? I can help people develop options. And options lead to the experience of hope. Without options, you're hopeless. So working in one session with someone where you just meet for that opportunity, truly understanding where that person is at. It is far more important to be able to empathize, to cooperate, to partner, to establish a relationship with this person. You will find out so much more information. You will help them move along those 5 stages. If all you're trying to do, if you look at them as a revenue stream, you are going to nickel and dime them. You're going to sell them something that isn't to their need, but to your economic benefit. You're going to feel slimy. You're going to look at yourself as, money's my God. I don't care about anything else. That's going to affect your own sense of self. And I think in the long run, being able to work cooperatively, to have long-term, I don't know what your career is going to be after the current career, but if your career shifts into something where you have long-term relationships, it would be great if all these people looked at you as a man with integrity. Yep. And a woman who says what she means and means what she says, who suggested someone else. And they're like, I'm working with you. I had a car dealer who did that with me. He said, no, you're actually looking for this. And I said, next car I'm coming back to you. And I did.
Yeah.
I never forgot. I tell people about this guy all the time. He's got your best interest. So I would be saying what we went over today, from understanding the 3 keys to life to using the stages of change model and looking towards being more effective versus efficient, be more productive, more successful, more successful in what you're doing versus just doing more of whatever you're not being successful at, is going to make a huge difference in the listener's life.
100%. I know we would be tight on time and there's always so much to cover, but I can't thank you enough. Plus, I know you're under the weather. Yeah, right? One last thing, if you don't mind. We can cover it in 30 seconds. I just think it's important, if you don't mind. Because once I understood this, it was huge. Something you told me a long time ago, nothing's guaranteed, which we always hear death and taxes. But especially in sales, right?
Yeah.
Nothing's guaranteed.
Nope.
You're just trying to increase the probability of success.
Bingo. You got it, my friend. Yes. For everybody out there, you could know what your customer's pain is. You could speak their language. You can have the product that will satisfy them. And that does not guarantee the close. There never was, is, or will be guarantees, except for obviously, death and taxes.
Yeah.
But besides that, and as you were saying, Joe, the goal in life is, what can I do to increase my probability of success? What are the things that put me in the best possible position on every single situation? There's room for improvement. I can grow, I can improve. But in this situation, in this now, what are all the things that I can do that would facilitate this process being successful? And always know there are no guarantees. But what can I do to increase my probability of success?
It's always been helpful. The reason why I bring it up is because we obviously, most sales teams probably that listen to this are being constantly told to follow a sales process, probably a bunch of scripting, which is fine. And, but it leads to consistency. And that's what the name of the game is. And understanding that you can do everything right and they'll still say no. Does that mean you need to change it to the next customer? No.
Right. I'm going to do what my partner does, or what my cousin suggested, or my neighbors. Well, thanks. Always remember, it's better to have a fast no than a long no. That, as I said to one of the tennis players I work with, so they were hitting a forehand and they wanted to hit it up the line. And it traveled 70 feet in the air and landed 3 inches out. And to hear this person, I stink. What am I doing out here? It's pathetic. I've hit 10. And I have to point out to this individual, if you hit a ball consistently 70 feet and it's landing 3 inches out, I always have to point out that though it's not a winner, it didn't close the deal. Though it may not be a winner, it doesn't make it a bad shot. It actually makes it a good miss. And I think that's important in sales.
Yeah.
You may not close it. Okay, but that didn't mean that you are horrible, or the information was terrible, or that you didn't satisfy this actual need. But actually, you need to repeat what you did, or expand on what you did, or develop maybe a different certain style in a situation to be much more sensitive to that person's need. It is stunning. Though it may not be a winner, it doesn't make it a bad shot. It makes it a good miss. If you're putting from 20 feet away and missing by a couple of inches, don't change your putting.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right.
There are no guarantees. What can I do to increase my probability? What I'm doing right here can be incredibly successful, and you want to keep that up.
I think we'll end on that, Doc. I appreciate your time. And obviously, you're in the group. You're the only doctor in the group. But I think you probably know as much about in-home sales now with our relationship over the years, and can't thank you enough as always. And obviously, I know you're always open to commenting in the group. So if anybody ever tags you, I know you'll get back to them via the group. I can count on that. And again, you're under the weather. I can't thank you enough for doing it.
It is always a pleasure to be a part of your podcast, to share this information with your listeners. If they need anything, they can certainly reach out to me. And like you said, I'm in the group. I look forward to 2026 being a productive year for everybody. And if I could be of assistance in the future, I'm up for it.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Doc, we'll talk soon. I appreciate it.
Best to everybody. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Happy holidays. Have a great 2026.
Thanks. See you, Doc.